All right. Ever feel like the dating world needs like a rule book? You sent in this super intriguing blog post, 30 dating rules that changed an innocent girl's life. And honestly, I'm ready to see what this innocent girl has figured out.
And I'm ready to unpack the psychology behind those rules because, let's face it, dating advice can be a real mixed bag.
Yeah.
But understanding the why behind it, that's where the real gold is.
Absolutely. So this blog is structured as 30 specific takeaways, almost like cheat codes for finding a good relationship. Where do we even begin?
Well, what's fascinating is that the first three rules she lays out, they aren't about cheesy pickup lines or Instagram-worthy dates. They're about something much more fundamental. Think of them as the foundation of any healthy relationship, romantic or otherwise.
Okay, I'm intrigued. Hit me with rule number 1.
It's all about what she calls the testing process. So from the very first interaction, this innocent girl is looking for signs of genuine interest, not just superficial charm.
Okay, so less, hey, beautiful on a dating app and more. What, like asking actual questions?
Exactly. It's like what relationship expert Dr. John Gottman talks about. True connection comes from emotional intelligence. Is this person making an effort to know you beyond just the surface level? Are they asking about your interests, your passions, your dreams?
Because if they're not even curious about us, that speaks volumes, doesn't it?
Absolutely. It shows a lack of respect for your time and who you are as a person.
And nobody's got time for that, which leads us perfectly to rule number 2.
Clarity of intentions. This one's huge, JG, especially in the age of ambiguous dating apps and situationships. The author is adamant that if someone's serious about you, they'll make it known, no hiding behind mixed signals or endless texting without a plan.
So no more wondering if they're ever going to actually ask you out. Refreshing.
Exactly. It's about valuing your time and not wasting it on people who are playing games or afraid of being upfront about their feelings.
Okay, 2 down, 1 to go. What's the final piece of this foundational dating advice?
It might seem obvious, but she calls out the importance of effort, and not just any effort, but consistent effort. How someone treats you at the very beginning of getting to know each other sets the tone for everything that follows.
This resonates so much
Yep.
because if someone can't even plan a decent first date or put in the effort to have a meaningful conversation early on,
Chances are they won't magically transform into Prince Charming later. And this isn't about grand gestures. It's about the little things, like remembering something you mentioned or making you feel seen and appreciated.
it's like Brené Brown says. Vulnerability is essential for connection, but that vulnerability can only exist if there's a foundation of trust and effort.
Exactly. And that goes both ways. You teach people how to treat you by what you're willing to accept. If someone's consistently putting in minimal effort, you're sending the message that that's all you deserve.
And we're done accepting the bare minimum. Right from the start, we're looking for effort, clarity, and respect.
Now you're getting it. These first three rules are like a dating litmus test if they can't pass this initial stage.
It might be time to move on to someone who can.
You're catching on quickly.
Well, I have a feeling this innocent girl still has a lot to teach us. What other dating wisdom awaits us in the rest of her rules? Okay, so we've got our foundation, effort, clarity, respect. But what about those early days after a first date? What wisdom does our innocent girl have for navigating that tricky terrain?
Well, she dives right into a rule that can feel a little bold, but it's rooted in that same respect for yourself and your time, the 48-hour rule.
Okay, break it down for me. What's the 48-hour rule all about?
It's pretty straightforward, actually. She says if you don't hear from someone within 48 hours of a date, and we're talking expressing genuine interest in seeing you again, like another date, consider it a sign that they're not invested enough.
So no more agonizing over why they haven't texted back.
Yeah.
2 days and poof, gone.
Exactly. And this isn't about playing games or being cold-hearted. It's about recognizing that someone who's genuinely interested will make an effort. And this ties back to what we were saying about consistency being a major indicator of someone's true character.
Right, that makes so much sense. If they can't even send a quick text to say they had a good time, it probably speaks volumes about how they prioritize communication in a relationship.
Right. And think about it this way. Those first few days after a date are when everything is fresh and exciting, right?
Yeah.
If they're already dragging their feet or sending mixed signals at this stage, it's unlikely to magically improve down the line.
Okay, the 48-hour rule, I'm digging it. What else does she have up her sleeve for navigating those early stages of dating?
Well, she gets into something that I think a lot of people crave, but can be hard to truly identify: kindness and loyalty.
Okay, but aren't those qualities kind of a given? I feel like everybody says they're looking for kindness and loyalty.
You'd think so, right? But the dating world can be tricky. And it's easy to mistake intensity or excitement for genuine kindness. The author even calls out the tendency to romanticize what she calls toxic relationships.
Oh, tell me you haven't fallen into that trap thinking the drama meant it was passionate, when really it was just unhealthy.
We've all been there. And what's interesting is that she links this tendency to oversharing, or what's often called trauma dumping, early on in dating.
Right. Like, I get that vulnerability is important, but there's a big difference between sharing your hopes and dreams and unloading all your baggage on a first date.
Exactly. And she doesn't shy away from the psychological aspect of it, saying, too often people confuse excitement with toxicity, believing that intensity equals passion. But in reality, kindness is what sustains a relationship long after the initial excitement fades.
Ooh, I love that. Kindness over intensity. Okay, so how do we spot genuine kindness and loyalty in those early stages, beyond just taking someone's word for it?
That's where paying close attention to their actions comes in. How do they treat others? Are they consistent in their words and actions? Do they show up for you, even in small ways? These are all clues to someone's true character.
So it's not about grand gestures, it's about the little things adding up over time.
Exactly. And this goes hand in hand with the importance of listening to your intuition. If something feels off, no matter how perfect things seem on the surface, trust your gut.
Okay, I have to admit, this innocent girl is full of wisdom. We've covered so much ground already, from those first interactions to navigating post-date etiquette. Where do we even go from here?
All right, we're back. We've talked about effort, clarity, those crucial first few days after a date, but there's one piece of the dating puzzle we haven't fully explored yet, and it's a big one.
And it's often the trickiest part to master understanding and valuing our own self-worth.
Absolutely. And the innocent girl behind our 30 dating rules does not shy away from this. One of her rules is even titled, "When he's not automatically obsessed with you."
It's a bold statement for sure, but it speaks to a really important point. You deserve to be with someone who's truly enthusiastic about you. Yes, no more dimming our own light to try to fit into someone else's mold. But how do we actually put that into practice? It's easy to say, know your worth, but dating can make even the most confident person feel insecure sometimes.
You're absolutely right. And that's where understanding a little bit about attachment theory can be incredibly helpful, which the article touches on as well.
Okay, attachment styles. I know this is a bit of a deep dive in itself, but remind us, what are those different attachment styles and how do they play out in dating?
Well, you've got secure attachment, which is what we all ideally strive for, feeling confident and comfortable in ourselves and in relationships. Then there's anxious attachment, which often shows up as needing constant reassurance or feeling insecure in a relationship. And then there's avoidant attachment, which can manifest as pushing people away or having difficulty with emotional intimacy.
And the article suggests that understanding our own attachment style and potentially the attachment style of the person we're dating can help us make healthier choices.
Exactly. For example, if you know you tend to have an anxious attachment style, you can be more aware of those patterns in yourself, like needing constant reassurance, and look for partners who are naturally more secure and communicative, rather than someone who's also avoidant or emotionally unavailable.
That makes so much sense. It's about understanding our own needs and patterns so we can set ourselves up for success, romantically or otherwise.
Absolutely. And this ties into another one of the article's rules. Do not spill your secrets early on, which might seem counterintuitive at first.
Right. Isn't vulnerability important in a relationship?
It absolutely is. But the article makes the distinction between healthy vulnerability and oversharing too soon. It's about taking your time to observe how someone behaves before revealing all your deepest thoughts and insecurities.
So it's more about watching their actions and seeing if their behavior is consistent with their words rather than just relying on grand gestures or declarations of affection.
Exactly. And this is where that innocent girl wisdom really shines through. She's encouraging readers to trust their gut instincts, pay attention to red flags, and not be afraid to walk away from situationships or relationships that aren't serving them.
It's about knowing we deserve to be with someone who not only says the right things, but also consistently acts in ways that make us feel loved, respected, and valued.
Precisely. It's about finding a love that's rooted in mutual effort, genuine kindness, and a deep respect for each other's values and needs.
This has been such an insightful deep dive. We've covered so much ground from those very first interactions to building a strong foundation based on trust and self-worth. But as we wrap up, I think it's important to remember that this is just the beginning of the journey.
It is. These 30 dating rules are fantastic guidelines, but the real magic happens when you start to apply them to your own life.
Exactly. Pay attention to what resonates with you, what feels authentic to your values and relationship goals. And don't be afraid to experiment, to learn from your experiences, and to adjust these rules to fit your own unique dating style.
Because ultimately, you are the expert on your own life and your own heart.
And on that note, we'll leave you with this final thought. The innocent girl behind these rules encourage setting clear intentions in dating. But how do you define what you're truly looking for in a partner? What are your non-negotiables? This self-reflection, going beyond any blog post or expert advice, is the true key to unlocking a fulfilling and joyful love life.
Until next time.